What was Breitbart like in real life?
Oh my, you can't. That guy. When people die, it is cliche to say, we'll never see their like again. He was one of a kind. And it's not true. It's never been more true than of Andrew Breitbart. He was the most genuinely unique humans I have ever met. You know, it's been 10 years since he died. He was 10 years older than I am. He was an absolute force of nature, a madman. But I would say that what people don't know about him, in particular because the most famous moment in his life was right at the end. Mm-hmm. It was those last 6 months. It was #war. It was righteous indignation. It was this sort of black and white screaming Andrew Breitbart that we see. But that was, I mean, honestly, that was 6 months of Andrew's life. What he really was a happy, manic, ADD, hilarious, irreverent lunatic who hated bullies. He wasn't even particularly conservative. I mean, that's the dirty little secret of Andrew. If he were here and you were asking him issue after issue after issue, you'd be like, I don't think this guy's a conservative at all. And that's true, he's not. He was a liberal. You know, he wasn't a leftist.
Right.
But he was a liberal in the classic sense. He was a Hollywood guy, a media guy. He was a guy of almost endless capacity. The first time I met him, I was sitting at my very first Friends of Abe lunch. And there was this guy who wouldn't look up from his laptop while everybody's going around talking. And you come to find out it's because he, at that time, was editing the Drudge Report at the lunch table while we're all having this big lunch. He was just that kind of guy. He could do so much. His capacity was so great. He listened to crappy, weird, British 80s bands and as I say, hated a bully. His entire conservatism was essentially a response to Ted Kennedy and Joe Biden's treatment of Clarence Thomas at that Supreme Court hearing with Anita Brown. Anita Hill, thank you. He just despised the unabashed bullying that he saw come from the hardcore left. And as it got more and more pronounced during the Bush years, during the War on Terror, and he would see, Bush compared to Hitler and killing babies and all that vitriol that came out of the left, as he would see that be mainstreamed, that is what put him on his crusade, is the mainstreaming of that leftist bullying. The guy, some of the most unique moments that ever happened in American media. Rollerblading up to a bunch of protesters and inviting them to Arby's. Yeah. I'm sorry, to Applebee's, and they went. That is who he actually was. Like, if you want to, what was Andrew Breitbart like in person? It's that. And the greatest moment, I honestly believe, the greatest moment of political theater in American history to date is the Anthony Weiner press conference.
Oh, yeah.
Where Breitbart just walked on stage and started holding court at Anthony Weiner's press conference. Who had the balls to do something like that? Who had the sense of humor who in politics has the sense of humor to do something like that? Only Andrew Breitbart. And I'll tell you, the last conversation I ever had with Andrew, who was a true mentor and friend, and I say that as a guy who also knows that, like many famous people, I knew Andrew very well and not at all.
Yeah.
The number of people who truly knew Andrew is like Larry Soloff, Susie and the kids, and maybe Orson Bean. It's a tiny group of people. Because when you met Andrew, you were immediately an intimate. So if you were sitting next to him in first class on a flight, you got off that plane and woke up the next day worried about him because you were like, Andrew Breitbart is my best friend. I know so many intimate details about his life. Because you were like at 6 the second you met him. And if you knew him for a decade, you got to 7. Right? So like the difference between me, who knew him so well, and you guys who maybe didn't meet him at all, there's not that much difference. But the last phone call I ever had with the guy, he would call sometimes at weird hours and just go off. There was something on his mind. And when he would go into one of these, and I'm hardly the only one, there were probably 100 people. That guy on the airplane was probably on the speed dial, and got the same phone call. All you could do was throw in the throw in your headphones, hit mute, and get on with life. So in this particular occasion, I needed some shampoo. So I go into Target over on like Van Nowen, kind of in North Hollywood, and I threw in the headphones, and Andrew's going on and on and on about this thing that he's pretty pissed off about, this other conservative media company who I won't mention. And, George Soros himself couldn't hurt us more than this so-and-so with his stupid ideas and all this. And every now and then I'd unmute it and go, oh, yeah, he's a real son of a bitch, and remute it and go find some more shampoo. The way my very last interaction with Andrew, though, this has been going on for 45 minutes. I bought all my shampoo. I'm back in my truck. And Andrew is still going strong. And he says, and I'm out here having to do it. I'm not worth $1 billion, and I'm having to do it from the ground up. And nobody's helping me. And this guy's out there doing so much damage, and he has all this money. And oh shit, I just rear-ended somebody. I gotta go. Quick. And I am not kidding you. That is the second call I had with Andrew that ended in a car wreck.
No shit. That's hilarious.
Yeah, he was just a machine gun, that guy. And for most of his life, he was a machine gun of passion and joy. And only in that little window at the end was he a machine gun of sort of passion and outrage. And in some ways, I know that character is a hero. Hashtag war is iconic. But it's also kind of a tragedy that's the moment Andrew is most remembered for. Because for all of us who knew him, he was so full of life. And his passion always manifested in humor and vibrance. And so that's certainly how I remember him and wish other people had the opportunity to remember him as well.
That's the thing about leadership, though. Most people that want power don't deserve it. And the people that don't really want it are typically the ones that you need to be in power. And it usually has a pretty negative effect on them, to be honest. It's not an easy thing to lead.
No, and with Breitbart in particular, wasn't it a heart attack, if memory serves me correct, like outside?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just, boom, and that was it. It was strange because he was a young guy.
Yeah, 43.
Yeah.
He had a cardiac episode that most people don't know about 6 or 9 months earlier. And in one of the real peculiar moments in my life, I was very concerned with him. It was sort of right when he was turning down this path of being more angry. He had taken some blows. There was the Sherrod Brown thing. He had felt a little betrayed by people in the movement who didn't stand by him during that. And I think he actually, even by some of my pals, I think they mistreated Andrew in that moment and handled it the wrong way. You guys know we talk for a living, and sometimes we just say the wrong thing or get on the wrong side, and it's hard to pivot. And some of our pals did that with Andrew. And he was staying up late fighting with randos on Twitter, and you could see real frays starting to form in his personal life. And another conservative commentator, Bill Whittle, and I were both concerned about Andrew, and we called him up. And we said, hey, we want to take you out to dinner. So we took him to Ribs USA in Burbank. And we were telling him, hey, Andrew, pal, you got to let up. You got to let go. You're going to die of a heart attack. You're a young guy, but your freaking heart's going to explode. You've got to get back to the joy. You've got to put Twitter down. And because he was kind of in one of his manic states, he couldn't stop. He was like, yeah, but let me show you that. He literally pulled out like an iPad and started playing something for me in the middle of me trying to have an intervention with him. And I was like, Andrew, stop it, brother. I'm telling you, you're going to die if you keep living like this. I'm not kidding you. The next day, or maybe at most 2 days later, my phone rings, and it's Andrew Breitbart, and he's in the hospital. And I knew he was in the hospital. Obviously, it's a small circle of Hollywood conservatives, and he had this cardiac incident. And he calls me from the hospital, and he says, hey, Jeremy, it's Andrew. And I was like, yeah, man, how are you doing? He goes, Did you hear? I had this, basically a heart attack. I was like, yeah, I heard, Andrew. He said, well, it's not lost. I just wanted to call and say it's not lost on me that you spoke a word of prophecy. You're essentially a prophet. And I laughed and said, yeah, I'm sorry to say, I think I am. I said, what have you learned? And he says, oh, yeah, I've definitely learned my lesson. I have to start eating better. And I was like, no, damn it. Yes, you do also have to do that. But no, you have to let some of this go. Let the fight go. I said, like, for example, why are you on your phone in the hospital? Like, put it down, But there was no stopping him. And that's the tragedy of Andrew, but it's also the beauty of Andrew. And one of the saddest things to me is that I did have that intervention with him. I'm probably not the only one who had that intervention, but I was also cheering him on because I wanted him on that wall because there was nobody doing as much good at that time as him. And so in some ways, when I think about Andrew's death, I feel that little bit of guilt too, that we who knew him and loved him knew that he probably was in danger from the way that he was conducting the fight at the end, but son of a bitch, we loved watching him do it.